Story 1. The dishwasher is being used as a drying rack instead of actually washing dishes. Story 2. I'm a white man married to a black woman. I had no idea about the culture of hair upkeep for black women. How much it costs, how much time it takes, and how important a connection point it is for her and other women. Interestingly, a bigger adjustment had nothing to do with race. I'm an only child, and she is one of 5, so the family dynamics are quite different. Next month, we will have been married for 24 years, so I guess it's all good. Story 3. An ex was Latina, and while there were no new social customs, getting used to her family dynamic took some adjusting. They were very close and involved in one another's lives, so the inevitable weekend barbecue was something I was expected to attend if she was going. Otherwise, 16 or more people would grill her about me not coming. Story 4. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. I am half Italian and half Indonesian, but I did not grow up with those cultures at home, except a little. My girlfriend is Persian. In the Netherlands, or at least in my experience, when people say no to something, they mean no. For Persians, it is often seen as polite to decline at least the first offer, and sometimes the second, even if you really want it. For example, if she offers me a cookie and I say no, she will ask another 3 times before letting it go, which is cute but sometimes annoying. Meanwhile, when I offer her a cookie and she says no, I stop asking, and then she gets a little mad that I did not ask a couple more times. It is not a huge difference, but it is cute and, in the beginning, very confusing. Edit. Wow. I did not expect 14,000 upvotes for this comment. I really love learning so much about these kinds of customs and that they are more widespread than I thought. Especially in Europe, I did not expect it to be common in Ireland, Finland, and Austria. Thanks for all the upvotes and the interesting tidbits of culture you have shared with me. Yes, sometimes Tarof happens, and I am prepared for it. My girlfriend knows I am not very familiar with Tarof, so there is never much confusion between us. We value good communication. Have a great day, everyone. Story 5. My partner is from California and I am from Singapore. I think the biggest difference is popular culture. Everything from your childhood television shows and the iconic music of your teens to your education system will be different. You cannot expect your partner to know who Mr. Rogers is or whether they have watched a particular cartoon. All assumptions must be discarded. I think it is a good thing to be honest. You start from scratch. It makes you aware of how vast the world is. And I keep learning new things every day. Just yesterday, I learned that in California there is a mascot called Smokey Bear that taught children about wildfires. In turn, I told her about Singa the courtesy lion, a mascot that teaches people courtesy and good manners. We had an entire discussion about mascots and how they are used to teach the public, and it was fascinating. This happens so often that sometimes we cannot stop talking to each other and laughing out loud. Story 6. I am white. My estranged family still implies that my Filipino husband is a scammer and is only with me for the money and Canadian citizenship. We have been together for almost 15 years and married for 12. If he were only after Canadian citizenship, he would have left me 10 years ago when he became a Canadian citizen. Neither of us makes much money, but we are comfortable and extremely happy. There is a reason why I do not speak to my family anymore. Story 7. Most of my in-laws are really great. Then there is my brother-in-law and his wife. I am from Spain, but he keeps thinking I am from Mexico and likes to use phrases like wetback and such, while his wife is concerned that I should always have my papers in order in case we are ever stopped. I am a citizen here. Stupid Muppets. Story 8. I mentioned this in another post. I had 2 biracial children in the 1970s. A woman exclaimed, "Good Lord, are those children mixed?" I answered, "No, ma'am. One's a boy and one's a girl." Story 9. A bit of a different perspective. My mom married my stepdad, who was a black man, when I was 6. I am very pale. He was there throughout my childhood. A great man. Eventually they divorced when I was 19. We were in Virginia at the time. As a white kid, I never really experienced racism in any form. I still remember that in 1997 the judge who officiated the wedding at the courthouse looked at my stepdad and my mom while I was holding the rings and said, "You're lucky." In some states, it's still illegal to marry a nigger. Thinking back on it as an adult makes me furious. No one said anything because he was a judge. Both sets of grandparents were very supportive, but the extended family showed subtle and overt racism from both sides. I had a good friend in middle school who was forced by his father to stop being my friend when he learned I had a black stepdad. Another horror story was when my stepdad had to go in for surgery for an injury he got at work. The doctor and nurse took him off pain medication and left him in his own filth. While lying there, he heard, "The monkey doesn't need the morphine." He started crying and we found out. I won't comment on how that situation was handled. These three events were all within about 4 years, from 1996 to 2000. When we moved away from Virginia and back to Massachusetts, the racism went from a 9 to a 2. No more Klan rallies down at City Hall, just the random racists you find anywhere. Not exactly the original poster's question, but as a kid brought into an interracial couple in the South, I thought I would share my perspective. Story 10. Culturally, many Asian men do not talk about their problems or stress. It is seen as a sign of masculinity to quietly bear it, so when things get rough, whether in or outside the relationship, my husband becomes very quiet. At first I thought he was just focused or motivated. He does not show anger, and at the same time he does not express anything, which tells me something is wrong. Coming from a half-Latino household, we are very loud and expressive when stressed, worried, or angry. Asian and Latino cultures are different in many ways and yet alike in others. It has been quite a journey being married to an Asian man. I would not have it any other way, to be honest. I think bringing cultures together through love is one of life's greatest things to witness and be a part of. Story 11. I am a white man who dated a black woman for a while in my late teens. Overall, it was good for us. Her immediate family liked me. It did not change until we went to a family reunion. We were both told it was wrong for us to date, even though a couple of guys had white girlfriends and wives. They influenced her little brother. He and I used to play games together, but after that he would not speak to me. Her parents received a lot of criticism for allowing me to date her. Her parents apologized. It was not their fault, but they were very hurt and embarrassed. We did not break up because of that, but it did affect our relationship afterwards. Story 12. I learned that Korean and Irish families are extremely compatible at a party with alcohol. After visiting, I now believe Korea is the Ireland of Asia. They are both developed countries with a long history of colonization, often bury their feelings in alcohol, and enjoy partying very hard. They also both value family and tease them constantly. Both cultures love cabbage. Story 13. The biggest change I had to adjust to was no longer talking to my mom. She was unhappy that I married a white person and cut ties with me. There was also subtle racism from some family members. Although the comments were small, I think it is best that I do not live near them. Story 14. I am Mexican and my husband is white, so I became used to his family celebrating Christmas on Christmas Day instead of Christmas Eve. Nothing crazy, but I was so used to Christmas Eve being the big day. Story 15. White male, black wife. Spices. Our spice cabinet is overflowing, and we have a bottle of moisturizer in almost every room of the house. I also smell like cocoa butter. Story 16. My ex was Mexican with a darker skin tone and I am white. It felt normal for us to be together where we lived, but when we traveled south, north, or to rural areas we would get strange looks and be judged. My friend said her grandmother from Iowa saw a picture of us and told her not to be friends with me. That was shocking. Story 17. Rice is served at almost every meal. My boyfriend is Asian, and I am very white. Aside from the rice, we are very similar. I now measure rice using my knuckle. Before him, I cooked rice maybe once a year. Now I cook it 2 to 4 times a week. Story 18. I am Mexican and my ex is Russian. I thought his mother hated me because when she said goodbye she meant it and would hang up. After a brief conversation, I received at least 3 goodbyes before we ended the call. Story 19. A woman at a gas station asked how I ended up with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby. I said he looks like his dad. I'm native. Story 20. When either of us is alone, we are practically invisible. When we are together, we are suddenly conspicuous. Glances on the street last a few seconds longer, and you notice lingering stares. People say things like, "It's so nice to see the world progress," "You're my favorite couple," or "It's such a nice day to go out with your significant other." This happens far more than if you went out with someone of the same race or a cousin or close friend of the opposite gender. It leaves you unsure whether it's a microaggression, virtue signaling, or genuine pleasure that race relations have improved since the 20th century. I kind of miss it. The biggest shock was how pronounced a dark bathtub ring she would leave after using my bath once, even when using the same bath bomb I use. It's a marked difference in lotions and other products. Story 21. I'm not used to it yet, but I am coming to terms with it. I'm no longer in an interracial relationship, but I am white and my first two girlfriends were black. Learning that my parents were actively trying to get us to break up because of her skin color was something I never expected. It forced me to reassess how much contact I wanted with my family. I am low contact with them now. Story 22. I am South Asian and he is East Asian. There have been a few differences around food since we started living together. He is used to eating meat with every meal, and I grew up vegetarian. I compromise by making vegetarian meals for a few days whenever I have had enough meat. People also get very curious when two people of color are together. A waitress once asked him in Mandarin how he got a girlfriend like me. Story 23. I am white and married to a Latino man. When his family says the party starts at 5, it actually means they do not even start cooking until 7 or 8. If you show up at 5, you will just be sitting around. Story 24. I am a black woman married to a white man in the UK. I think the biggest difference is how family is treated. In my culture, I cannot fathom leaving an elderly family member to live alone and fend for themselves, but that seems normal for my husband's family. We talk about it a lot. He agrees it may seem strange, but it is expected. Another difference is attitudes toward money. I believe that if you give someone money, you do not ask for it back unless it was agreed in advance. If I can afford to buy someone something, I do not expect anything in return. In English culture, people often expect exact repayment and avoid letting others pay for them. That was a real culture shock to me. Story 25. In my failed marriage, there was overt racism. I am Asian and my former husband is Eastern European. When we first started dating, his mother declared, "There are 3 races in this world: white, black, and yellow, and they should not mix. What would the neighbors say?" His grandfather expressed surprise when he met me because he thought I was black. He believed Japan was in Africa. Japanese families are generally respectful and not too intrusive, but his family was involved in everyone's business. They asked questions like, "You've gained weight. What are you eating? And what does your psychiatrist say about how long you should be on antidepressants?" This is how they bond. His family felt I was secretive and hated them because I refused to answer those questions. That created a situation where my former husband had to choose between his family and me. Guess what his choice was? Story 26. My husband is black. I'm white. He was shocked at how my long hair found its way everywhere. All over the shower, around the house, even in the crack of his butt. He was less than impressed by that. With me, I couldn't run my fingers through his hair any old direction without messing up his waves. I didn't know they had to be a certain way, and he didn't tell me. He said he liked me rubbing his head too much to say I was messing them up. It was only when he was rocking a slight fro and I asked where those pretty lines in his hair had gone that he glared and said it was me. He wasn't mad. He genuinely thought I knew and had just wanted to rub his head that badly. I was so clueless I didn't even know they were called waves. Story 27. I am white and she is Hispanic. Her family likes me, but my family hates that she is not white. I did not realize they were so racist until after they found out I was not dating a white woman. I hate how self-righteous people on Reddit are. Stop correcting me about my use of the term Hispanic. I know I used it incorrectly and I do not care. Story 28. Not wearing shoes in the house. Giving money to her family. Celebrating the Chinese New Year reunion dinner and making rice for almost every meal. Lucky customs included one year when we did not have much money for Christmas gifts, so I wrapped practical items such as new kitchen shears and knives. I was scolded because you do not give those kinds of gifts. They are believed to sever the relationship. I am not complaining. It just took some getting used to. Story 29. Black men approach her to ask why she is dating a white man. We also receive rude stares. Some people go out of their way to tell us we are a beautiful couple, which is nice but also strange. Story 30. My husband is Ashkenazi Jewish. His family, and his Jewish friends seem to enjoy arguing for sport. There were a couple of times when I thought people were having relationship-ending arguments over politics, but they were perfectly fine 15 minutes later. Story 31. My family, who were white, were terrible. I left them as a teenager because of abuse. They are now in the rearview mirror. His family, who are black, are warm and affectionate. Everyone hugs. I love them. I did not think I would ever have a family again, and I had no idea I would be so embraced by my husband's family. For me, the biggest thing was that the other shoe never dropped. They were not being mean or pulling a prank. They were genuinely kind and loving. If any of them asked me to go anywhere at 3 a.m., I would go. Story 32. Dirty looks, passive-aggressive behavior, and comments from complete strangers, especially women. Story 33. As a white man married to a black woman in the early 1970s, we had many problems while living in Los Angeles, her hometown. Her father and brother would not speak. Her mother was the salt of the earth. She hugged and kissed me on our first visit. We encountered problems wherever we went. After we moved to my part of the world, South Louisiana, we had no problems. We lived in a Creole community, were invited to every gathering, danced at the local bars, and attended a church where there were only 3 white people. Members of my family never spoke to me again. I was not related by blood, and I had never seen such stupidity. She passed away. Otherwise, we would still be together. Story 34. I am Anishinaabe. My husband is white. His family recently moved to a very forested area in a wealthy region. They are now acting like they are the only people who have ever been in a forest, when my dad has literally lived off the land for 75 years. They ask, "Have you ever really been in the forest?" Yes, I grew up in the bush. I guess it is different when the bush is on an Indian reserve than when it is in cottage country. Story 35. In our relationship or marriage, nothing. It always felt very normal. The comments and stares from strangers, however, took some getting used to. Story 36. I am a Southeast Asian woman and my partner is white. I moved to his country a couple of years ago and we met here. I did not have any problems with being in an interracial relationship, but he had to get used to people assuming I was with him for his money. It is ironic because I earn more than he does. He has noticed judgmental stares from strangers, and a colleague once assumed I did not speak English, probably thinking I was a mail-order bride. Story 37. Her hair requires a lot of maintenance, and she is more sensitive to racial issues and to the oppression of marginalized groups. Other than that, and my look becoming considerably more stylish, there is no difference. Story 38. I am white and my wife is Afro-Colombian. When she gets excited or passionate about something, it can sound aggressive or rude. Her culture has speech that is very passionate and expressive. Sometimes she will be having a normal, joyful conversation with her mother on speakerphone and it sounds like they are angry and yelling at each other. Story 39. I'm white, and my husband is East Indian. I speak Spanish, but he does not. When we're in Spanish-speaking countries, everyone assumes my husband is Latino and speaks Spanish, while I'm white and do not know what's going on. It has been a source of unintentional comedy. Story 40. This is not about me personally. I am Asian, and my sisters are married to white men. It is interesting to see them at family events, with everyone mixing in English words. They have picked up some of our words and can tell when we are talking about them. It is sad to see my mixed nieces and nephews reject our culture and think our food is strange. They deny being part Asian and claim they are entirely white, which frustrates me. Story 41. Returning items was suddenly so simple. I had no pushback, no hassle. I've never had so much privacy when shopping in stores. I'm used to the constant, "Can I help you? Are you finding everything okay?" from employees. Now, I have a white companion with me and they just let me shop. We were buying her family's food. I really have to psych myself up. It's only one time a year, but I will never get used to different fruits and cranberries in macaroni. The undercooked meats and general lack of seasoning are real. Story 42. Cocoa butter is in almost every room of the house, and I am learning how to do box braids. Because I work with concrete, I find cocoa butter a godsend, and I love it. Story 43. I think being a gay couple overshadowed that we are interracial. My husband, who is white, has had more to adjust to because he took my Asian last name. He gets double takes when he is called up for an appointment, but that has been the worst of it. No weird looks afterward. We are very lucky that almost everyone we interact with is perfectly fine with same-sex interracial couples. The worst interaction I experienced was when one of my daughter's kindergarten classmates asked why my daughter does not look like me. This was just a curious 5-year-old, nothing nefarious. I gave a brief explanation of how adoption works, that someone else was the biological parent, and then everyone went about their day. Story 44. My mom makes comments she does not think are racist, though they are, and she never fucking learns. Story 45. My husband is white and I am black. He is wonderful, but his parents and brother are not. I have a major case of resting bitch face. It keeps me young, and there is nothing I can do about it. The casual racism they have expressed toward me has been significant. They tell me I have an attitude if I am just sitting and reading a book, and that I am rude if I do not welcome my brother-in-law's girlfriend in an over-the-top manner. They had a mammy cookie jar in the kitchen that I planned to knock over until my husband spoke to them and his mother put it away. Not to mention the Confederate flag hanging in the garage, which is absurd since my in-laws are from New Jersey. What do they know about the Confederacy? Story 46. I have been really lucky to live in several countries and have been in relationships with people from diverse backgrounds. I was born in the United States and am mixed race. I am much older than the average Redditor. A few notes. I dated 2 Korean women in Korea. Sex is less taboo overall than in the United States if you are a normal and respectful person. There are too many people trying to fulfill some strange Asian fetish. Yet women feel pressure to act cute, and it can be over the top and dramatic, like trying to imitate a television drama. I dated several Germans. Pros and cons. Fewer pleasantries and more directness. I dated 2 African American women. They both had huge energy. I met their families and everyone brought huge energy. I met their friends and the energy level was even higher. It was exhausting. I have lived a unique life, and it was never boring compared with normal everyday life. I dated 1 Irish woman in Ireland. She was probably the funniest person I have ever met. She had a tight-knit family and what felt like stereotypical Christian values while not being religious. She was a picky eater. She was from North Dublin and constantly joked about having me killed. That was interesting. I dated a few Australians, specifically in Melbourne, because I lived there for years. A woman who weighed half as much as I did could drink twice as much, wake up at 8 in the morning and play Australian rules football, then come home and call her friends over to start drinking again. She made out with more women than I ever have, and then somehow still wanted to go home with me even though I was only there temporarily. So yes, I am a bit drunk, sitting in a bar in Malta now, and reminiscing about the amazing partners I have had in life. I am finally working on myself and hope to make one relationship a bit more permanent someday. Thanks for reading, Random Stranger. Story 47. I have been in several interracial relationships as a white man. The black women I dated were mostly from a similar cultural background, so I did not feel many differences. One girlfriend did mention receiving strange looks in a restaurant in my small, almost entirely white hometown. I also noticed small differences, and their hair was often very voluminous, which sometimes made spooning awkward. My current partner of 8 years is Vietnamese, originally from Vietnam. Many small cultural differences arise, especially regarding childcare. We have made compromises and still occasionally disagree. She is more independent than many of her peers from back home. I am not sure whether that comes from living here so long or whether she was always that way. Relationships always take work. When you are dating outside your own culture, you need to be willing and able to put in that work. I think it is a good thing because it makes you more aware of these differences. People are people wherever you go. Story 48. We are often asked whether we want to pay together or separately and whether we are a couple. People assume we are not married. I am Asian and he is white. Is that something all couples experience? Please educate me. Story 49. I am French and married to an Indian. I was raised in a very calm environment, while my husband grew up with constant noise. He always listens to the television or videos on his phone at a very loud volume, sometimes both at once. It drives me crazy. On the other hand, he feels nervous when the house is completely silent for too long. He says it makes him anxious. I have also noticed he tends to raise his voice very quickly when he is passionate about a topic, almost to the point of shouting. He regularly complains that French food is very bland. Story 50. My fiancé is Korean, and the drinking culture and its rules, although I had been warned, caught me off guard the first time I went out with his hyungs. I did not know that when his mother gave me a gift, I was supposed to refuse it about 5 times before finally accepting. Story 51. My Japanese husband and I were sharing a meal. I am white and European. I passed him a piece of food with my chopsticks, and he was aghast. Apparently, the only thing you pass with chopsticks is bones from a funeral pyre. He explained it very nicely, and I can imagine his horror. Story 52. My boyfriend is Guatemalan. I did not know how deeply Catholic Guatemalans are. I went no contact with his family for over a year because of the way they treated me. His mother called me damaged goods because I was not a virgin, which was deeply triggering because I am a sexual assault survivor. People distrust me because I am not part of their social circle. They are also very homophobic, and one day I confronted his cousin. Apparently being an outspoken woman is frowned upon. I do not speak Spanish yet. I am learning. I am not wealthy like they are, and my family is not considered good enough. It is probably just them, though. Story 53. A white woman's ability to flat out yell at cops and have nothing happen is absolutely amazing to me. While she did this, they stared at me like I'm El Chapo. I did not say a single word during those interactions. She said enough for 10 people, so it balanced out. Story 54. I am Asian. My white father-in-law offered to go grocery shopping for me while he was staying at the house my husband and I share. I asked him to buy rice. He came back with instant boxed rice. Apparently that was what my husband had grown up eating. I felt as if a hate crime had been committed against me. Story 55. I've been in a few multiracial relationships. I'm currently married to my Laotian wife of 10 years, and we have a 6-month-old baby. Since I have only a moment to comment, I will focus on this aspect. I am a Southern white man with a Southern accent, and I am just over 50. More than 80% of the world expects me to have a certain mindset, political affiliation, and racist attitude. My family has some racism for sure. Having lived half my life in Atlanta, they expect me to be too city to know how to shuck oysters or work on cars and home projects. Having spent the other half of my life on a farm in South Georgia, they do not expect me to be DJing a rave with 10,000 people in attendance. Now I have traded the rock star life for family life and professional barbecue, which creates even more preconceived notions about who I am. A lot of my life has been spent disproving people's misconceptions and surprising them. My career is in development and operations engineering, focusing on microservices in financial technology. I am an award-winning barbecue chef, a musician for over 40 years, and a record and event producer. Yes, I am Southern, but to hell with racism and hate. I have seen enough in my life to know how foolish people are who care about who and how you love. Story 56. As a white male married to an Asian woman, it is extremely insightful to see racism and misogyny up close and in real life. Previously, I had only experienced them through other people's stories or media depictions, but seeing it firsthand has helped me better understand the pain it causes. Like many things, media portrayals differ from real life, which is often more subtle and nefarious. Last night, we went out to dinner. My wife asked the server questions, and the server kept responding to me instead of answering her directly. He would not make eye contact with her or speak to her, which was infuriating, as if she did not exist. Story 57. My sister does not tan and married a man with very dark skin. It is difficult to capture both of them well in the same photo with a phone. Either he appears in shadow or she is overexposed. They tried several photographers before finding one who could take flattering wedding photos of them. Story 58. It has been mentioned, but the low-context/high context cultural differences took a while to get used to and can still drive me up a wall sometimes. My husband is Japanese and I'm American. Early in the relationship I would commit a faux pas, like taking a drink immediately when offered. He would clam up and refuse to talk about it, and I would have to prod him for hours to figure out what was wrong. When he finally told me, I would say, "I'm not a mind reader. You have to tell me when I screw up." He would reply, "You have to be a mind reader." Because in Japan everyone is very attuned to these small social cues to the point that it practically is mind reading. 16 years later, I am much more attuned to these differences than I was as a college sophomore, and he is much better at communicating when issues come up, but it took time to get there. Story 59. She likes pumpkin pie, and I like sweet potato pie. I have had to get used to arguing about it every year. Story 60. I am white but culturally very Latino. My wife is Latina but very Americanized. We are like peas and carrots. Story 61. The biggest difference I had to get used to was the language barrier between my side of the family and his. I am Mexican and come from immigrant parents, while he is white. Another major difference is how we interact with our families. I was raised to be extremely polite, not to talk back, and to respect my elders. At family gatherings, I have to greet everyone individually, shake their hand, give them a hug, and ask how they have been. His family, by contrast, is very casual and rarely asks about one another. My family is community-oriented. Everyone helps each other when in need and rises up together. His family has more of a you-are-on-your-own mentality. It is your responsibility to make something of yourself on your own. I have also experienced microaggressions and subtle racism from his family, even though they have reassured me they are not racist because their son is dating a woman of color. Story 62. People stare at us when we are on dates. When we were further north, people glared at us and whispered. All the people who said they did not care who I dated, whether someone was green with pink polka dots or purple stripes, actually did care. They said they preferred my abusive ex, whom they had never met, because they believed I was more docile with him. They also threatened to shoot him on sight, and then had the audacity to be shocked that I did not want to speak to them. Story 63. I am white. My wife is Latina, from Ecuador. Some positive little things. There is no such thing as a kid's menu or kids' food. Children on her side eat the same food as the adults, just in smaller portions. Our children are raised that way, which is much easier than my siblings, who always make separate nuggets, pasta, or pizza for their kids in addition to their dinner. My white family is always impressed that my kids are not picky. For what I would consider simple events, people dress to impress. Dresses, heels, and hairstyled for things like children's birthday parties or backyard barbecues. The not so good. I did not realize how much casual racism there is in the United States. When we are together with our young son, people sometimes assume my wife is the nanny because she is Latina, even though she carried him and he looks like her. We are a same-sex couple. My white family often says ignorant things, like, "I wish I could tan like you. She is brown, not tan." Strangers also sometimes call her exotic-looking. Story 64. I am white and my wife is black. The most noticeable difference is how our families celebrate holidays. Christmas with my family is more formal. We dress nicely, use the fine china, and all sit down at the table together to eat. Christmas with her family is different. Paper plates and solo cups. Everyone walking around eating. Grandpa asks where the weed is, laughing out loud. It is a vibe. I like it much more than what I am used to. Another big difference is our views on pets. We have a dog. I am okay with him being in the kitchen while I cook, but she does not want him nearby when she cooks. We both grew up with dogs, but her family apparently never allowed pets in the house. She seasons everything. I love her cooking. Many white people do not season much, but everything she makes is amazing, and I enjoy trying the dishes she grew up with. She still surprises me with her cooking. We view money differently. I try to save and hold on to money as long as I can, while she and her family freely give each other money when asked, trusting it will come back around. For them, money is more of a community resource than a personal one. I have learned never to make her angry, because when she snaps and her accent comes out, I am in trouble, laughing out loud. We have a 6-month-old daughter whom we both love deeply, and we are figuring out how to raise her in a way we both agree on. I love that woman. She completes me, and I could not ask for anyone better. If you are reading this, Diana, know that I love you so much, and all the history on this account was written by someone else, not me. Story 65, we might be the same person. I owned distribution routes. I retired at 34. I was making exponentially more than people who went into business management, financial planning, and so on. My wife works part-time. We have $1 million house, 2 cars, and so on. My in-laws, who are Asian, said when I proposed that our son had married a doctor, one who cheated on him and never worked, and our daughter had married a pizza delivery boy. I literally cannot wait to sell her dresses and jewelry when she passes. We might just burn the money. Those things meant more to her than her own kids. Get bent. Story 66. I am Chinese. She is Irish. I went to Ireland to attend a wedding. Before I begin, I should say I have been around my share of drunk people. Anyone who has been to a Chinese or Vietnamese wedding knows cognac bottles are passed around like candy after dinner. But the level of drinking at Irish weddings is absurd. I have never been around so many blacked out people in my life. They are extremely lovely people, no doubt, but the drinking culture could be toned down just a bit. Story 67. I am Chinese and my husband is American. A Texan to be exact. After we became exclusive while dating, I stopped saying thank you and please because, in my culture, it is considered alienating to be so courteous to family. He thought I was being rude. We had to work through that a lot and we have compromised since. He now knows not to say those phrases to my family when we visit, and I make sure to say them when we visit his family. The other issue is that we have a big difference in snack philosophy. In China, pantries are filled with snacks for guests and for the family. When we used to go on car trips, my family always packed snacks, and my parents still give me snacks for train rides whenever I return to China, even though I am 40 now. This was another area where we compromised. We do not buy snacks for ourselves because we would eat too much, but we make sure to go all out for guests when they come over. Story 68. My wife is Filipino. Sometimes the context of her sentences causes misunderstandings. Metaphors were another big issue we had to get over. She is better at understanding metaphors now, but my favorite example was when I said, "These 2 guys are having a dick measuring contest." And she asked, "Why are they measuring their dicks?" It was great. Story 69. I'm a 48-year-old white man. My wife is a 52-year-old black woman. We have been married 15 years this year and together for 19. I had no idea how much work and maintenance her hair requires. I also did not realize that so many black women wear wigs. I had always thought that was their real hair. For example, using black castor oil and other treatments are things I had never seen my sister have to do. Another thing that made me laugh was washcloths. My wife uses them all the time, but I was not raised using them. The Dave Chappelle skit gave me extra laughs later in life because of that. We did not have much racial tension in either of our families, thankfully. Story 70. I am Apache and my boyfriend is white and from the southern United States. One thing he has had to get used to is us being stopped at stores like Walmart by greeters asking to see our receipts. The first time this happened, we were picking up supplies for our cats. We had bought items separately, so we had separate receipts. I was carrying the $5 plastic litter box he had paid for and a small jug of litter I had paid for, and he was carrying multiple bags of cat food and treats. An older white woman working as the greeter at Walmart stopped me and asked for the receipt for the litter box. He was dumbfounded. After we showed her his receipt and left, he looked at me and said he had never been stopped leaving a store and asked, "Does that happen often?" I had to tell him that yes, people stop me frequently because of racism, Story 71. My boyfriend, 19 male, is Mexican and I am 19 white. I was raised in the Midwest of the United States in a nice town with a Southern father and a Yankee mother. My boyfriend is a first-generation Mexican American. He has faced a lot of internalized racism and discrimination. He often says he would look better if he were white or that he hopes our children will be white. It never occurred to me that people might hate themselves because of their skin tone. To me, it was just different levels of tan, but for him and others it can be entirely different. That was a huge eye-opener. Story 72. The level of machismo in a Mexican household was very different from what I experienced growing up as a white person. My parents had somewhat traditional gender roles, but they also believed in doing things themselves when possible. My brothers were expected to do housework as well as yard work, and I was expected to do the same. With his family, however, if they heard he did housework or if I took a plate before getting him one, they would nearly lose their minds. I would just laugh and say his arms aren't broken. Story 73. My fiancé is Mexican, and I make sure I say hello to everyone. Never turn down food, always finish my plate, and help the women with cooking. It is a great experience, but I am glad to be back home because my family does not have events every weekend, and they do not make fun of my insecurities. Story 74. I am an Asian woman with darker skin. I was adopted and later married into a white family. I adore my in-laws, but before I got married, I had never felt so out of place in a room. We travel together a lot, and I have found that I am usually the only one who worries about how people will treat me at a destination, at least in the United States. Story 75. My humor depends on being up to date with United States pop culture, so I have something to reference. Otherwise, my jokes are mediocre at best. I moved to the United States in my late teens, so I have a solid grasp of recent pop culture but not of earlier eras unless they are internationally popular. I am Filipino and white American. Story 76. How often do you come across a celebrity or piece of art you have never heard of, even though it is known by billions of people in a group you are not part of? Like finding out the highest-grossing superhero franchise is not Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man, but Anpanman. The same applies to music, how Saad and Davido made enormous album sales, to television with how many people follow a Korean drama, to comics like El Condorito from Chile, to poetry with Langston Hughes' poem, What Happens to a Dream Deferred? Or to art like Paul Del Rio. Feels like being left out of an inside joke. The blame seems to fall on you for never having come across it before. Story 77. I am white, American-born and raised, and my wife is from the smallest village you can imagine in southern Lebanon. I brought her here on a marriage visa. When she arrived, I had to be very patient while she learned about things that in America we just never think about or take for granted. I thought many of her questions were sarcastic at first. It taught me to be more patient and to try to see the world through her eyes. For example, garbage collectors almost never have to leave the truck because the mechanical arm lifts and empties the can. Another thing she cannot grasp is the rules of the road. Almost every time we see someone clearly in the wrong on the road, she will point to the non-offending party and say, "What were they thinking?" It makes me nervous for her to start driving. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.